If you're feeling overwhelmed and maybe out of balance between excelling at fatherhood and your career, then this is the episode to listen to. Could it be that fatherhood is the catalyst to becoming a better man, both at home and in life outside the home? Find out in just a moment. This program is made possible by financial support from Smile Online Course and Books. Smile Online offers online courses for teens and young adults designed to help them master social and career skills. Subject matter includes customer service skills, job interviewing, electronic etiquette, and managing stress. For more information, visit thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.
Welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge, a movement to awaken and inspire fathers everywhere to take great pride in their role and to challenge society to understand how important fathers are to the stability and culture of their family's environment. Now, here's your host, Jonathan Guerrero.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode called Good Father, Great Man. My guest is Jeff Hittner. Jeff is the founder of the Ambitious Dad Project, a 30K plus newsletter and global community of dads challenging definitions of success at work and at home. Jeff, welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, ready for my favorite question? What is your favorite dad joke?
Well, because I live in a very hot, sunny place, I will use this favorite one, which is, why does the banana need sunscreen?
I have no idea.
Because it peels. Wow, did we lose half of our listeners?
Where'd they go? I promise the rest of it's good. Have I not heard this one before? Jeff, what is your story behind why you started Ambitious Dads Project?
Yeah, I mean, there's the short version and the long version. I guess we have time for both.
We do.
My whole life, I wanted to be a dad. About 11 years ago, after a lot of trying and the failed surgery, I found out that I wasn't able to be a biological dad. And I realized in that moment that if I wanted to be a father, and by the way, I have two amazing boys that are the light of my life. They're 8 and 5. But I realized if I was going to become a dad, I needed to change my definition of fatherhood, something that was foundational to who I am, which is that obviously fatherhood is blood. And so I went on a journey to do just that. And as I said, I'm a really proud and intentional dad as a result of it. But one of the things that came about through that transformation, I always worked in developing new sort of programs, and I launched the Bard MBA in sustainability. I was contracted to write the curriculum, and I was the leadership professor there. And I was a leadership expert, and I build leadership development programs, and I executive coach people. And I realized that this was the anchor to why I was doing all that work. If I could transform my mindset about something as foundational as fatherhood, then we could transform our mindsets about anything. And in so doing, we could really reach our goals no matter what they are. And so that was my real big, deep, internal, purposeful catalyst. And then at a higher level, about 3 years ago, I started recognizing this trend where I was coaching these CEOs, these executives, and they would have no problem talking to me about their career goals, what they wanted to do from a job and company perspective. But when I asked that same question about their fatherhood, they were dumbfounded. They didn't really know. And they hadn't really put enough thought into it, at least from my perspective. And so I got really curious, and I decided I was going to go on another journey and sort of claim my ignorance and just interview 50 ambitious dads and see what was going on. And I got to interview number 4 and was like, this is unbelievable. I am learning so much. I need to start writing now, like four interviews in. And that was probably almost 2 years ago now. And so at this point, I'm probably closer to 200 interviews. I have a blog called ambitiousdads.substack.com, and I just write about what I've learned. And it's been unbelievable. And it's been truly selfish. Like, I learned so much about how to be a better dad by doing these interviews. But I've also learned about like what modern fatherhood could be and what all these modern fathers want, but what's missing. And I call these things that are missing like these 6 gaps. There's the confidence gap, and there's the time gap, and there's the brotherhood gap. There's a ton of gaps. We can go into details on them, but and there's the role model gap. Suffice to say, my interviews have discovered that there are lots and lots of dads out there that want to be very different than their fathers were, and they don't really know how to go about doing it, and that's where all these gaps come from. And so I'm working really hard to find new ways to close those gaps. So I build programs for fathers to develop their own fatherhood philosophy, other programs so that they can figure out how to feel integrated, like the same person at home and at work. Because as you alluded to in the opener, I truly believe fatherhood is like a master class in how to become a great leader, because it is hard, and we build skills and we see our weaknesses, and there's so much possibility to grow. And all of those are the reasons I do this work.
The Ambitious Dad Project, it has a 30,000 plus following. When you started this, did you ever imagine it would grow that big?
I still can't imagine it. One of the things I'm doing with Ambitious Dads is trying not to put a time block on it. Like, I'm just trying to do the work and see where it goes and see the impact that it can make. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do day to day.
Moms talk to each other all the time. Why is it so difficult for dads to talk to each other about fatherhood?
There's a lot of reasons. So the first is cultural, right? We haven't really been brought up to recognize that it's what is best for us from our own mental health perspective, from a growth perspective. Secondly, our own egos get in the way, right? Like, I should have figured this out on my own. Like, I don't need to ask anyone for help. Third, because we're busy juggling a million things and we deprioritize the true fact that we need to have community with other dads to be great at the thing that we love the most. One of the data points that I came across in my work is that 92% of fathers believe that fatherhood is core to their identity, like truly core to who they are in the world. But only a third of those people, a third of those dads actually believe that they are good at it. So that means the great majority of us have very little self-confidence in our ability to be good or great dads. And that's both a symptom and a result of not being able to communicate with other fathers, and that's a big piece or a big thing that I'm trying to correct.
I'll add my own a piece to this from my own experience, and that is that I've always had this vision of mothers as having it all figured out. They know what they're doing because it's in their instinct, it's in their DNA to be caring and to know how to care. So a lot of times new dads, they check out because they don't really feel like they have any sort of vital role. Think about it. The newborn, what can you do for a newborn? You can't, unless you're bottle feeding, you don't really have a role there. So the general attitude, and I'm very much stereotyping this, but the general attitude is, okay, you know what, for the first maybe 12 years, that's going to be on the mother. And I will take over when they become a teenager to help get them ready to become a man. That's when my role becomes vital, and that's when I'll show up, and that's when things will kick in. And I can't tell you how many women that I have interviewed on this program who have told me that it's a lie. Mothers do not know it all. They do not have it together. They figure it out as they go along. The difference between mothers and new fathers is that for new mothers, the instinct is life and death. If they do not figure it out, a baby dies. A baby does not thrive. And that's in the back of their mind. So they will be proactive. They will educate themselves. They will read. They will talk to other mothers. They will do whatever they have to do to figure it out instead of checking out. So that is the only difference. But mothers do not come with everything instinctively to have it figured out. They have to learn just like we do. And many mothers have come on here and said that very same thing. Yes, you can get information off the internet, you can read and you can find and learn things, but do what mothers do. Talk, socialize, interact with other guys, with other dads. There's so much we can learn in this community.
Our biology changes too during childbirth. And that's the thing that people are just now starting to figure out. And it's another reason why paternity leave is so critical.
Oh, yes.
Right? Like men's testosterone can drop by a third, right? Our oxytocin levels go up. This is what's required for us to create more empathy and bonding with our children, right?
This is scientifically proven. There are TED Talks on this.
Yeah, our brain chemistry changes, all of that stuff. If we don't stay home, if we skip out on that because we say, like I can't help we miss that. Like we miss that chance for our body to change, which is evolutionarily designed to do. I mean, and you can think even 10 to 15% of men go through, depression afterwards as well, just as women go through, some women go through depression after childbirth. All of that stuff is just as possible for fathers. And we need to start to recognize that if it's biologically aligned and designed for that, then there's probably some good reasons for it. But I will say that it's not just assumptions that moms have it figured out, that keep us stuck. It's cultural too. I mean, my wife's family is very child focused and very like sort of Italian, sort of traditional Italian focused. And they didn't want, like, it was really hard for me to play the role that I wanted to play as a dad, as involved as I wanted to be. And, I talk a lot about this in the programs I run with other dads is before you have your children, you need to talk about like your misaligned ideas about like how the management and engagement of your baby is going to be, because we come from very different settings. So maybe the mom's background is like, I'm supposed to do all this work. That's what I saw my siblings do. That's what I saw my mom do. That's what my mom's talking into my ear all the time. That's what she's saying. And then maybe the dad has an opinion of that too, from their experience, their upbringing. And then more so, like, what are the things that you had in your childhood that like you really don't want to repeat? What are the things that you want to exaggerate? Like all of these things require a beautiful set of conversations in advance of having your kids, so that you can get going in a really like powerful way as a couple. But we don't do that. We don't communicate enough. We don't understand enough. And God forbid, we don't let enough dads take paternity leave. And so we're falling behind from the get-go, and that's hard.
Okay, you've hit on so many points. Where do I even begin? So I'll start on paternal. There is such a thing called paternal postpartum depression.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that until I had a guest on. She did her whole doctoral work, her doctoral studies on that topic alone. It is scary to look at the research of how many dads have gone through paternal postpartum depression, undiagnosed, unrecognized, and have suffered through that in silence. If we were to make space for it in the workplace, to be able to take that time to be able to deal with that, we would have fathers who are able to be more supportive of their spouse. They would be more present in the very, very beginning with their kids.
And of course, there are plenty of countries that do those things, right?
Yes.
In Europe, both parents have up to a year off in at least a dozen countries, right? Like right off the bat. So you can just focus on being a family. Imagine that. Imagine taking that sort of stress off of the whole relationship and figuring out how to be a parent. Like that would be great.
Is it possible for dads to have it all? Being a great father and being highly successful outside of the home? If so, how does being a great father fuel everything else?
Having it all is a big concept. I think what's possible is to parent with intention, to grow your career with intention, and to really have done the work to make that possible for yourself, so that you don't always feel like you're letting someone down, whether it's your kids or yourself or your partner if you have one. And that requires it requires doing the work that very few of us really do, right? And so again, when I build programs for dads, my flagship one's called the Founding Fathers Program. That's what we do. It's like, all right, the number one challenge that all dads talk about, that I've interviewed, is all about balance, right? And like, they don't have enough time. They don't have enough time to take care of their family, their career, their relationship, their own mental health, their physical health, God forbid, hobbies and friends, right? But we also are constantly, what I see is dads are constantly winging it. They don't actually know like the best way to engage as a dad. They don't know the best way to carry over sort of a leadership philosophy that works both at work and at home around values. They don't know how to create new traditions with their kids, which will transcend having to miss certain activities with them, because sometimes we do have to make those decisions from a career perspective. And if we put the thought into what I call like building this philosophy for how we want to parent, how we want to father, then it can just drop that anxiety level and create just a little bit more space, which we all need to feel like we're doing a better job at it.
For those who are married, why is it essential for dads to find real connection with other dads? Isn't your wife supposed to be everything that you need as far as a connection is concerned?
Well, that's not what the divorce rate would say.
True.
No, we can't expect our partners to be everything. They can't be our best friend, our perfect co-parent, our lover, our confidant. And there's a lot of leading psychologists, particularly Esther Perel, that love to talk about this. We're demanding our partners become everything wrapped up in one, when in the past, like, we got all of those things from a variety of sources in our communities, right? But when we talk specifically about fatherhood, like, the way we process being a dad is different than the way a mom processes being a mom. We go through different experiences. So to be able to have those conversations with other dads is definitely going to be way more beneficial in so many respects. For instance, I'm sure you have two boys. I have two boys. They love to fight. They just love it, right? My wife cannot handle that at all, right? So if I was just conversing with her around their roughhousing, the solution would be, we're not allowed to let them roughhouse at all, right? But when I went and talked to a dozen dads who also have boys, they're like, no, this is what they need. This is natural. I'm a child. I also have brothers. I love my brothers to death, and we fought all the time when we were kids. And you do a little research and you realize, yeah, like, this is how these more physical boys learn. And so that's just a simple example of, like, you need to be chatting with other dads because they're going to have a different perspective. Of course, you need to come to a consensus with your co-parent, but dads are there to shine and connect with you on the experiences that you're going through, because they are also men.
And there's something inside of that, especially when the rough housing is happening between a father and sons. What is happening there is trust is being built. So
Yeah.
your boys are fully aware that you are physically capable of a lot of damage. And so as they are interacting with you subconsciously, they are testing your boundaries, knowing what you're capable of. There's a certain amount of restraint that he is exercising, but he's not hurting me. Trust is being amplified and being multiplied in their mind in that interaction.
Yeah, there's a lot that's learned during that sort of safe roughhousing play, and the truth is, there's a lot that's learned when you do that with your daughters too, because that's the
Yes.
first time that they get to recognize the power of their voice when they say no, and you stop, they recognize that they can advocate for themselves and that their boundaries matter, right? They're learning that right from the get-go. And so there's value in that for as they grow up. There's a lot of value in all of that physicality. And again, that's why you need two parents with two different perspectives, because otherwise, you're only getting one angle of what is useful and what's not useful.
What is the true definition of being a provider versus what most dads think it means?
I'm not going to give a true definition, but I'm going to tell you what the dads that I've interviewed have said, that it is not about finance anymore, right? Being a provider means like being able to provide financially and emotionally, right? To be able to provide the nurturing, not just the roof over the head. And that is what the ambitious dads, the ones that I'm speaking to, are so concerned with. They want to know, how can I nurture? How can I be emotionally ready to be the type of dad that I want to be? And that's this type of provider that we're talking about. And I was speaking with a dad just yesterday about how interesting it is when we have kids. Our kids reveal all our emotional weaknesses, right? What we call our triggers, right? And a trigger is when you have an overreaction to something that your child does. So you may not even notice it in the moment, but after the fact, you notice, like, I didn't need to react that much. So like that's a trigger, right? So what that means is we as men have a lot of work to do, as do all people. But like, for instance, my children, they used to have temper tantrums that could last up to 30 minutes. And I could not get past minute number 2. And I would just become totally dysregulated as well. And I needed to figure out what that was stemming from. It probably stems from, as a kid, not really being given permission to be that like emotional, even at a really young age, right? And so as I tried to get better at it, I still couldn't handle 30 minutes. So I would tell my wife, look, I just need to tag out. But that was a lot better. I would tag out before I got really upset and like was making it worse. And then eventually, like, I could get to minute 5 and to minute 10 and to minute 15 and to minute 20. But that took time, right? And but that's part of being the provider, being able to provide with the emotional stability, not just the financial stability.
I had a historian on the program once, and he goes back and talks about the generational ways that fatherhood and the definition of fatherhood has changed. We've gone from men going out and spending most of the day in the workplace, and that was providing. The mothers provided all of the emotional support in the family. And so the dads came home, and they pretty much relaxed. They were the disciplinarian and everything else, cleaning up all of the other messes in the home, usually with harsh parenting techniques. That was the role. And we've now moved to, in fact, the definition of fatherhood now has expanded. The prison systems alone are filled with men who did not have available fathers to teach them good, proper emotional regulation. This is why I love what you're saying. What are most dads talking about in the Ambitious Dad Project?
They're talking about what they're struggling with at any particular moment, right? And those lead back to those big themes, right? Like their confidence. I have a fun story. I was working with, must have had maybe 20 dads in this program. And one dad, he's like, guys, I need to tell you all something. I dropped our baby yesterday. And he meant, well, the story goes is his maybe 6-month-old was on the couch and he went to get something, and the baby rolled off the couch, and he just felt horrible, right? He felt absolutely awful. And I was like, hey, welcome to the club. And like I asked the dads, raise your hand if that happened in some form with you and your child when they were a baby. And like half the dads raised their hand, including mine. Like that definitely happened. And like you just saw his face soften, right? Like he was like, oh, like, okay, these are just like no pun intended, the bumps in the road of fatherhood, right? And so what do we talk about? We talk about this. We talk about like what's happening day to day, what we're struggling with, what's like stressing us out about our kids now. The thing I think that's a little bit maybe distinct between what the dads talk about versus moms is a lot of the dads are also bringing up future stuff that is in no way the vicinity of like where their life is with their kids right now, but they are constantly looking like 5 or 10 years out. So they're concerned now about how am I going to deal with social media with my kids? And I'm like, your kid is 2,
Yes.
right? Like, and same with schooling and obviously college, and all of these things serve a purpose, like a valuable planning purpose. But it's also something that, like, again, when we talk in the context of this group, it helps to be like, okay, there's only so much anxiety you should place on yourself for these topics that we can't yet predict what's going to happen 5 or 10 years from now, when we know that 2/3 of the jobs our kids are going to graduate into by the time they're adults don't even exist right now. So like, let's slow our roll and get closer to where they are in our lives with them and being more present about like what we need to work on with them today.
How can dads listening connect with you or find Ambitious Dad Project?
Very simply, just go to ambitiousdads.com. And you can, from there, you can register and sign up for the blog posts that I put out weekly, for one of the programs that we run. And you can just reach out to me directly.
And just to make things easier, if you go to thefatherhoodchallenge.com, that's thefatherhoodchallenge.com. If you go to this episode and you're looking for the episode entitled Good Father, Great Man, Good Father, Great Man, look for that episode, go right below the episode description, and I will have the link that Jeff just mentioned posted right there for your convenience. Jeff, as we close, what is your challenge to dads listening now?
People like to ask this question about what's your superpower? What's your superpower? I think it's more of a leadership question. But my superpower, I've always told people, is that I know how to ask for help. And I want that to be my kid's superpower, and I want that to be all dads' superpower. Because our ability to ask for help does so many things. It lightens the load, first of all. It gives us new options. It makes us feel connected, and it gives us hope. And so my advice is, please get better at asking for help. And that starts by, listening to this, going to my website, reaching out to another dad friend to have a conversation that's not about the superficial topics, but actually about the things that are really worrying you as a father. That would be my ask.
Jeff, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I really hope that dads take this conversation seriously, that they get connected with you, that they get connected with Ambitious Dads Project, and that they realize that they don't have to be alone. Thank you so much for being on the Fatherhood Challenge.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fatherhood Challenge. If you would like to contact us, listen to other episodes, find any resource mentioned in this program, or find out more information about the Fatherhood Challenge, please visit thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.